This video is a part of my full custom digital guitar pedal building course. In this video, I'll show you how to triple check all of our work and give you some tips and troubleshooting that I've encountered along the way in my pedal building journey. By the end, we'll hopefully have made sure that all of our parts are totally locked into their positioning so we can make our custom graphic. This course is also sponsored by PCB, a quick, cheap, and well-made solution for getting PCBs custom manufactured. So now the PCB is by all ways totally done, but there is one more thing that I think is smart to do just so we can check and make sure that everything is correct, and that is the 3D model. So I can go here and go view 3D viewer, and you can see that we have our LED, we have the daisy, we have a resistor, but we obviously do not have any of our pots, and that's because it doesn't know what model it is, because we found this online and this is our own part and we made our own footprint. So obviously it won't know. And this is something that we can pretty easily typically find models online. Footprints not as much, because obviously this footprint was really easy to make, but models you can totally find, just like this daisy one that is already here. And why might you want to do this? Well, I'll show you how we can take this 3D model and put it in a 3D modeling software to compare it with our enclosure and even all the drill schematics if you want to just triple check that your work is correct. I think this is super helpful to do because when I started off, like I said, there was so many iterations on these PCBs by just sometimes the sizing, which is not what should happen. The sizing should be the thing that you just have down because it's pretty simple math and it's just it should line up perfectly. And there was times I remember the first time when I had the screw holes not line up because I had PCB mounted jacks and just all of these issues that you don't think of until they happen. So I think it's a really smart idea to get into the habit of triple checking everything, because every time you order parts, that is money that's costing you. That's all this waste you're producing, labor you're paying for that's going to waste. So the less amount of that we can do, the better. So I'm going to go and search for this pot. So that was the RV16AF, and I'm going to just search for 3D model. And I have done this, so I know that there are plenty. So we can see there are all these different websites, we have this grab cab. So let's see. Yep, we have the exact pot that I'm using. This is the alpha. This is literally the exact one I had ordered. This one has a slightly different shaft than mine. As you can see, this has that totally smooth one, and that shouldn't really matter because that won't really make a difference with this overall rest of the spacing there. So this would be totally fine. We could download that. I already have these downloaded, so I'm not going to download it right now, but we can also see SnapMagic. Let's see 3D model. And yep, there we have pretty much the same thing. So that will also probably work perfectly. So once you've downloaded your model, you can come to, there's a lot of different places you can put the model. I'm just going to go to my documents, then KiCad, and then this is the version I'm using. And then you could put it in 3D models, which is where I did, or third party. And then once you've done that, you can come in and select your objects. So here we'll have to make sure that locked items is checked because we will have to select these pots. And then you can come to 3D model, and then we can hit add here and then the folder, and then just go to that folder that you found. There are paths you can configure to make sure you have this at one, but this also works. So then I can just select this right here, and now that pot is going to appear, and now we just have to position that as best as we can. First thing we want to look at is what the actual orientation is, and we can see that by this footprint being on the top. And as we know, the knob is going to actually be on the bottom, so we probably want to rotate that way. And now it's pointing the right direction, but we need to rotate this Z over a bunch. And so now we just want to offset probably the Y, so we can just click that up a ton of times. And this doesn't have to be perfect. So this is interesting. So it is not totally lining up because as you can see, this diameter in this circle is perfect while these pins are not. So this could be something to be concerned about. I'm not sure what exactly it is. I wonder if it is that whole 0.5. I'm not really sure. So it could be the model, it could be our thing, but I know that it actually isn't a huge deal for this sake. One, because it's not that big a difference, but also all of our things have that level of sort of clearance and tolerance that we're able to give it. So this is not going to ruin our design, but either way, I can move that down. So there we go. We want to make sure that these are correct because obviously the pins will not be able to move past that. So that should be good there. And now I can hit OK. I'm sure there's a way to just link a footprint to a 3D model or something, but for now I'm going to just kind of redo that for everything, and just I can look at these values or write them down or something and then just go apply that to all of your pots. All right, so now I have set all of those, so let's go back to our 3D viewer, and now we can see all of our pots are there. So you might be a bit concerned because the daisy is totally poking there, but the daisy will have those headers. That is something that in the 3D model we can add, but yeah, these pins will not be poking through all the way there, so do not worry about that. And the LED will be totally on the other side. So that is maybe something that we could go in and edit. I might have this just come a little bit above it. We could like measure that out, but I'm not too worried as long as like you see that it is in the right sort of space when we compare it with the drill, then that's all that matters. So I'm not going to totally go over like Fusion 360 and throwing this in there to really test it, but there honestly are some simple ways that you can test it yourself. Just like a slight fail-safe one is that I could come here and kind of straighten this out and just take an actual screenshot of this. And now I've placed the one photo, and I'm going to place this one on top of it and then just have the opacity be a lot lower, say around there. And now we can just sort of look for the holes, and we can already just see that like, yeah, that lines up. I mean, obviously that the PCB is not a perfect top down because of the angle, but this is all I mean is like, just make sure that if this LED was like up here that you just forgot, maybe you forgot to minus the 16 or something, but this is totally fine, and we can scale it or scale it down to make it, try and match it better. But I can pretty much see from this that like, yeah, that'll work. Another really smart way is that we can go here to print and then hit print again, and I can go to hit PDF. That was with the silkscreen and edge cut layers selected because we don't really need the routing. So then I could actually print this out and set all of my parts just on there. So this is another way that is less about the actual drill, but making sure that if you maybe made a ton of footprints that each one fits correctly. This is a great way to check footprints, check spacing. This is a way that I could, if I had an enclosure lying around that was the correct size, I could just make sure everything loosely fitted. You could even like cut some holes in it. I don't know. There's also a time where I had like 3D printed out PCBs because I needed to check sizing. All this to say, triple check your work. Make sure that you don't have to order stuff a ton of times because that shipping will definitely add up. But once you've done that and you're sure things are right to the best of your knowledge, then we are ready to submit this to PCBWay and get them ordered. So the main way to submit your PCB is with what are called Gerber files. So we can come up here to File, and instead of Export, this is where we could do export our 3D model and stuff, but we're going to come to Fabrication Outputs and hit Gerbers. And then all the default stuff should be totally fine for this PCB here. We want all of these selected, that's great. And now I'm just going to choose the output directory. You could just make this in the actual one itself. So I'll just put the Gerbers right in there. I'll select, maybe make a new folder. I forget if it does by default, but I'll hit open. Do you want to use a plot? Just say yes. And then I can hit plot. And then we actually need to hit generate drill files. This will just tell them where to obviously drill all of these holes. So then hit that. And that is good on your Gerbers. So now we go exactly to where it spit those out. So here I have the Gerbers folder. It seems it was good that we made it a folder. And what we're going to do is just zip this. So I'm going to say compress. And then we are going to go onto PCBWay. So I know PCBWay might have sponsored this course, but I had actually prepped this whole thing and even ordered my PCBWay on PCBWay before they ever reached out to me at all. So I have been using them for years. It is cheap, it is quick, and I've never had an issue. Their customer service is great. And yeah, this is what I've been using, and there are other options, but I've never had an issue with PCBWay. They have all this other stuff that I'm sure I have mentioned before, but yeah. They have a nice way for us to get an instant quote by just putting in our dimensions. So our length was, what, 46 by 60. I'll just select 5, and then ours was a 2-layer board, and the 1.6 thickness works totally great. So I can hit calculate, and now it'll tell us our price. So yours might be by default a lot more because of DHL or something. These are all your different shipping things, at least if you're in the US like I am. I always just select the cheapest. I've never had a package lost. I've never had anything damaged before. If you're more cautious about that, then feel free to select something more expensive, but obviously the shipping cost is the main cost here because your actual PCB is only $5. So It's up to you. I mean, for something that's $5, I feel like spending 20 bucks on shipping is maybe not worth it. But if you were to get everything like pre-soldered or something, then it could be worth paying for a better shipping company. But luckily for us, we can leave everything here just to the defaults. I could go over what they mean, but I either don't know it or it's just not needed at all for this. So they do have this beta where you can upload a Gerber file for them to just more helpfully calculate the price for things. Our PCB is so small that it doesn't really matter. So we can just hit add to cart, say agree, and then you're going to need to sign in. So now this is where we add our Gerber file. So just select that .zip. There we go. So I can hit submit the file now. So your actual PCB will need to be approved by them first. So if you either do all these things wrong or maybe selected wrong values and you actually have a higher price, then they will tell you that. So you do have to get it approved. In something like this that we just made, it'll probably get reviewed very shortly. And then once it does, you can go pay for it and get it ordered. Don't we just love being careful? Hopefully by now you have triple checked all your work so that you know all of your different X and Y values match up from your drill schematic to your PCB. Feel free to go ahead and order your PCB from PCBWay now. But before you go and order anything from Tata, the next video will go over how to make our custom graphics so that we can get that UV printed onto our enclosure through Tata. So once that's done, we'll save a little bit of extra cost on shipping so we don't have to do all these separate orders. The playlist for the full build is linked below. I'll see you there.